they move us so much is because our hearts know that we're designed to be one and made complete by something.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And so when we see those little things, they stir our heart because inside of our hearts, we know that there is one who wants us. His name's God. Right? And our hearts cry out for that
dying
love.
to say yes to that one who is the perfect love.
Right. So if we used all those fairy tales to describe God as the one.
Metaphor.
Right. It is. It's a metaphor. And so human beings the world can see that there is a Prince Charming. The world can see that there is such a thing of finding someone that can make you whole. The thing is, they got the person wrong.
Yeah.
It isn't another human being, it's God.
Yeah.
Well, we see it as literal.
Yeah.
You know, people look at things like that, they see it literal. They're not really looking for the deeper meaning.
Yes. And that's what marriage, I think I left this out of the message, but marriage would be more of a sign and a wonder, testifying of being made whole in God.
Yeah.
A valid picture of marriage, a man loving and desiring of his wife is a picture of the relationship we have with God.
That's exactly right.
You know,
And that's what it's
not
designed
the
to
other
do.
way around.
That's right. And that's what it's designed to do. It's designed to point to this.
That's right.
Paul said the visible things of this world declare the invisible things of God. Right? So we can't see God with our physical eyes.
Right.
Or that he wants to be joined with us. Or that those who believed, are joined with him. We can't see that with our physical eyes. But we could see a husband and a wife coming together and being made one. And then we can even see that a husband and wife can come together and they can have fruit. Right? And we can see how fruit can be brought forth in that relationship. That's all designed to point to our relationship with God and us being made one with God and God proposing to us and us saying yes. And when we say yes, we become joined to him through his spirit. And then he brings forth his fruit in us. Right? And just like the bride can't bring forth fruit of herself, God doesn't expect human beings to bring forth fruit of themselves.
Yes.
Right? He doesn't come and marry you and say, well, I'm going to go away now, figure out how to bear some fruit.
Yeah.
He doesn't come and demand for us to be fruitful.
Right.
He's the one that takes it upon himself to bring forth the fruit. Imagine I tell Becky, well, I'm not going to be around ever, and I expect that you're going to bring forth some fruit.
Right.
How's that going to work? You know what's going to happen if she feels afraid enough that I'm demanding fruit? She's going to find somebody else.
Some way to get fruit.
Some way to get fruit.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what happened to human beings. We haven't seen God as the one proposing to us, but then telling us he takes the responsibility to bring forth fruit in us. We haven't seen it that way. We've seen it as him telling us we better bring forth some fruit. And so then we're off on the side fornicating with our own flesh.
That's right.
Trying to figure out how can we bring forth fruit so we can be fruitful. Whereas God's the one that promised. What does it mean to promise? It means he took it upon himself.
Yeah.
Every fruit that will come forth as us is supposed to be the fruit of promise. If it's the fruit of promise, you know what that means? You ain't got nothing to do with it. Because he promised. Right?
That's nice.
And we missed that. Isaac was the child of promise. Meaning God promised he would bring forth Isaac apart from their works. That's what it means. That Isaac was the child of promise. And he even waited because Abraham couldn't figure it out with his head yet what that meant. He waited till Abraham became dead. He waited like 18 years for Abraham to become dead because Abraham tried to bring forth Ishmael because he didn't understand what it meant that God promised. He thought that meant I need to bring forth some fruit.
Yeah.
And so he went and tried to bring forth fruit with a concubine. And he brought forth Ishmael. So God said, all right, we'll wait about 18 years. We'll wait for Abraham's body to now also be dead. Abraham's body completely dead now. Sarah's womb was dead. It's still dead.
Right.
Now we'll come and bring forth a child.
That's right.
Then they'll get it. Right? You know what happens when you realize that the fruit that God brings forth in your life is by promise and not by what you did, then you don't consider your own works anymore when you think of fruit. Right?
Yeah.
And so Abraham was easily able, when God brought forth a child, after he knew he was dead, and he knew Sarah was dead, he was easily able to see that Isaac wouldn't be preserved by his works. Because he saw that his works had nothing to do with bringing forth Isaac. So it was like a natural effect that he didn't consider his works anymore in saving Isaac. That's why he was able to go up and offer Isaac. Because he thought, well, my works can't save Isaac. My works didn't bring forth Isaac.
Yeah.
So I know that even should Isaac die, God brought him forth when we were dead. So that means God can raise him up from the dead again.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so what can happen is when you realize any fruit that comes forth in your life is the fruit of promise, you no longer consider yourself in the bringing forth of the fruit. You no longer feel ashamed based on where you're at in the fruit-bearing process. You don't feel ashamed if you don't have fruit. You don't feel ashamed if you still see the wrong kind of fruit, because you see that God's the one who promised to bring forth fruit. Then you find yourself considering the one who promised instead of considering all your fruit.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
The serpent wants to get your mind considering all your fruit, whether it's good or bad. And God wants you to consider him who promised. Right? Because when you consider him who promised, you stop considering the fruit you see in your life. Next thing you know, you'll find yourself bearing much fruit.
Right.
Right?
So awesome.
Does that make any sense?